countdown to the last comic shop in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Isn't it ironic, don't you think? It's like Andy yelling at people being too loud.
It's the Last Comic Shop podcast. That's right. The season 6 regular show start, right? Yeah, like this isn't like a special show. This is just a normal show, right, J.A.?
Oh, that is correct, but it's not normal. Because it's a year of J.A. book. We have all the time in the world.
Unity, gotta let them know. Unity.
It is a long time in the making. I'm the host with the most, Andy Larson. I'm joined by Jay Scott, who has more year of J.A. picks here in 2026, as well as Chad Smith, who's still going to get year of Chad picks.
Never ends.
It never ends. It's evergreen. And then we've got Ethan Larson, which we'll read manga sooner or later. Or a Western. Maybe
How about a Western manga?
Yeah, do they have those?
Some Trigun.
I mean, Cowboy Bebop. It has cowboy in the name.
Yeah, but it doesn't have anything to do with Westerns. It's like a science fiction.
What about Lone Wolf and Cub? Does that count?
Yeah. I mean, if you do any like samurai book, that's basically a Western. So
there you go. What we're doing on this week's episode is the Unity Saga. That's right. It's the year of J.A. And for those folks that may have been listening to the Last Comic Shop for a really long time, this is actually a buildup. Sooner or later, this would be the end of a mega pack because we did a lot of Valiant books over the years. We already read some of the issues that occur in this book. Archer and Armstrong 1 and 2. We kind of read, the lead up to it in Solar last year. Kind of read a little bit of the lead up in Harbinger as well.
Yeah, which sucks, which means that if you go on to Comixology Unlimited, you can read all of the Eternal Warrior issues of this crossover, all the Archer and Armstrong issues of the crossover, all the Shadow Man issues of the crossover, all the Exo Manowar issues of the crossover, all the Harbinger issues of the crossover, but you get no Solar, you get no Magnus, and you don't get Chapter 0 and Chapter 1, which is the bookends, which actually set up and then conclude the series. So you can get a bunch of the stuff in the middle, but not all of it, and not the beginning and the end because...
Yeah, rights. You should note, issue 0 is Chapter 1 and issue 1 is Chapter 18, because that makes sense.
It doesn't make a lot of sense, but we'll get to that. We'll make it make sense for all of our listeners that have maybe not enjoyed Valiant Unity in all of its entirety. But before we get to that particular book, we've got play a game because we need to warm up you as the audience. And so we're going to have the first blind rankings of 2026. Season 6 is here among us. And we are going to play a game that has become very popular. So without further ado, we're going to throw it over to Ethan Larson, who will be the host with the most for the remainder of this segment. Ethan, take it away.
All right, and these are all Valiant adjacent. Because I couldn't say a tangential. Just like Andy, I have a weakness for the vernacular and mispronounce things constantly.
Wait, what's the X-Men lady that wears purple?
Cyclock?
Yep, that's a Larson.
Okay, so Valiant adjacent blind ranks. I'm going to need y'all to blind rank these cosmic beings.
Ooh. From comics, I'm guessing.
Yes, from comics. Yes, correct.
I guess.
Jesus on here. Although I'm sure there's comic books about all those people.
There are, for sure.
All right, so first off is going to be the Watcher.
I don't know. He's got to be like a 4 because probably somebody who's weaker and more useless than the Watcher. But come on, the Watcher's a big bald guy that just stands around and watching. What I hate about him is like he says, "Oh, I can't get involved because I can only watch," and then he fucking gets involved.
Every time.
Yes, if your thing's going to be watching, then just watch, man.
He's the OG. He was the OG cosmic character from Marvel. Like,
that's why he's not a 5.
No, he's got to be at least 3. Give me at least 3. Middle of the road. Watcher, I mean, come on. He's iconic looking, still relevant. Like, people know who he is.
The host of What If. So he's essentially like Ed McMahon now.
People love Ed McMahon.
Exactly.
I think he's more Carson Daly than Ed McMahon.
No, I'm going to agree with Andy. I think 3 is exactly where he belongs because he is useless, and that's what makes him great. He shows up, big fat guy, big fat head, a toga, and he's like, I'm just here to watch. It's not creepy.
Give me that hotel chair. That's all I need. I just like to watch.
A voyeur perv is number 3. All right, moving on. We got Q, Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Wow.
My good fortune is your good fortune.
I do like John DeLacy. I mean, he was popular enough to not only be on one Star Trek show, but then make his way into the other ones. But he's not as cool as the Watcher. He's not even a comic book dude.
But it's like if you need a plot device at all time, you just throw Q in there, and then he rearranges the board, and they're in doing Shakespeare.
What you're forgetting about Q is he's in the first episode of Star Trek Next Generation. He's in the final episode of Star Trek Next Generation, and he's in arguably one of the best episodes of Star Trek Next Generation, where he introduces the Borg.
Let's give it to Chad. He's got no dog in this fight.
I do not. I only caught the occasional episode on USA because that's what was on. I genuinely do not care. So I went Andy last time with the Watcher. I'll defer to JA this time to keep it even, Steven.
All right, he's a 2.
Next up, we have Omni-Man.
He has J. Jonah Jameson's voice. That's a plus.
Thinking he's 5. I say F that guy. He's the most powerful. Forget that. Take his dumb mustache and get the hell out of here.
And also, isn't he just a device for daddy issues? Isn't he just All right, next up we have Mother God, a.k.a. Erica Pierce from Unity.
The main antagonist that we'll be talking about today. She would be higher. I think she's a really interesting character, as we'll get later on into this book, but she only had this one story. They didn't bring her back for Deathmate or anything else at all, ever, which was sad. So she's got to be a 4. She's not better than the Watcher, who's been in 1,000 issues.
Or Q or whatever that guy was.
Exactly. She didn't introduce the Borg, so 4 it is. Who's our number 1, Ethan?
All right. Well, number 1, I think you guys did a good job because number 1 is Darkseid.
He is, for sure. In fact, that's what I still need that T-shirt. I didn't get it for Christmas, but I need that Darkseid is shirt from that Mr. Miracle run. Right? That was the shirt he was wearing, right?
No, that's not in the Mr. Miracle run. It's in another Tom King run, I think.
It was in a callback to a callback. Maybe it was Danger Street.
All right, so we got 5 Omni-Man, 4 Mother God, aka Erica Pierce, 3 Watcher, 2 Q, and number 1 is Darkseid.
Yeah!
It's a good list.
I don't feel bad about that. What do we got next, Eth?
All right, so next up is, I'm going to need y'all to blind rank these special comic cover gimmicks.
Oh, Chad is all on this one.
I want them all to be number 1 already.
First one up on our list is what I was called mosaic issues, which was basically Unity Saga all created a big picture.
Put together all the different covers and it creates one big issue. Just like the X-Men number 1. If you didn't get the fold out, you could get all the different variant covers and put them in a line and they created one big panel.
I gotta say that's gotta be kind of high on the list just simply because of the artistic chutzpah to do that. And to make people buy all these variant covers.
Well, no, that's what I was going to say. If it's a variant cover, I think that's crap. Because that's just a gimmick to get people to buy the same book. But if it's what they did with Valiant, if it's a bunch of different books that come together, form one big image, that's a little bit cooler.
I agree with Jay totally on that. I will dock this trend points because I don't ever want to have to buy the same comic multiple times to get the full picture. But if you're going to do a mini series and each cover is that, it's awesome.
Let's put it right in the middle. Let's do a 3.
All right. So next up on your list is chromium covers.
Oh, for heavy metals, you just like arbitrage that into thousands of dollars and make all kinds of circuit boards and little things.
I don't know what the hell you're talking about. I'm picturing those books that I have from the 90s. You know, that cover that's all the metal sheen.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking of, the sheen cover.
And the thing about those, I would actually put these a little bit higher because every single one of those covers I have holds up. All of my, is it Exo Mana Wars with the Joe Q cover? Those are great. All my Evangeline #1s with the chromium cover, like those are all still 9.8 books. Like those things are sturdy, man, and they look real cool.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's a 2. It's definitely better than just like standard foil covers.
All right, so now you guys touched on this, but this was a disturbing trend that I found. It seemed especially scummy. It's variant covers, but it is a specific variant cover, which is 1 per store.
Well, that's got to be a 5.
I am torn because I am not a ratio cover fan. I'm giving you my money. You should give me what's available out there. And these 1 per stores, they're just like the high ratio books. I actually don't mind them as much as the 1 in 500 or 1 in 2000s, simply because if they give 1 to each store, they're guaranteed to get that. And like, I think they go a long way towards helping stores. I don't mind that one as much, but since I consider it part of those ratios that are just hard to find, I'll say 5.
All right, so we got variant covers of specifically 1 per store variant covers at number 5. Next up, we got hologram. Well, this is
okay.
fun.
All right, holograms I can get behind. That's got to be number 1 for me. I love me a hologram cover. All those amazing Spider-Mans for the 30th anniversary. Some of the most iconic and best covers ever from my childhood. I love those things.
No, I've got 2 words for you why it shouldn't be number 1, and this is because what could be number 1 deserves to be number 1, and that is die cut.
No, you mean rub the blood. Rub the blood.
You mean glow in the dark.
Glow in the dark should win. That's the best one. No, the best one is the Lotto scratch off ones. I'm with JA on this one. The hologram covers, it just sucks. Because you get this tiny ass hologram. Whoop-de-frickin' do. You're going to go hologram. Give me a cover that's a hologram.
We guys got what, 4?
4.
All right, so we got 4, and you know what number 1 is? It's die cut.
There you go.
Number 1 is die cut.
I knew it was there, but even if it was glow in the dark, that's fine, because that's better.
There was the one Malibu comic where the whole comic was die cut. Somebody gets shot. It has the bullet hole all the way through the book. It was like the Protectors number 4.
My Sleepwalker number 18, where you get the Halloween mask. That's die cut.
Yeah.
There you go. You can cut out the 2 eyes.
See, you're on board now.
From a production standpoint, die cut is much harder to do. You've got to use a thicker card stock. I mean, a hologram cover, you're just slapping a baseball card in the middle of it with a bit of glue.
As long as it's not the lenticular ones, they never worked.
Which, by the way, Robin had all these things. Robin 2, the miniseries, had the holograms on there on each issue. Robin 3, Cry the Huntress, had the lenticular covers. Robin, the regular series, the first issue is the foil embossed where like you can feel it over top. Robin was big on the gimmicks.
The only thing that I wish that they would do that I love from trading cards is like when they cut up the person's jersey and then put it on the card. They need to do that for comic.
You know what they need to bring back? And I genuinely miss this thing, is the poster. You open up the staples a little bit, you pop that poster out, like, that was the best. I remember buying like whole magazines just because, you know, oh, Wizard has an awesome poster this month, I'm going to buy it.
So let me go through this real quick. Special comic book cover gimmicks. We got 5 is 1 per store variant covers. Number 4 is hologram. Number 3 is mosaic issues. 2 is chromium covers. And then number 1 is die cuts.
All right. So last one. We got to get to this book reviews.
All right. So I'm going to need y'all to blind rank these lame superpowers. So first on our list is X-ray vision.
Oh, yes. This is one of the lamest powers. I never understood this power and why like when you were young, you would see X-ray specs and you were like, ooh, I could be some creeper and look through some girl's blouse or something like that. Not only would you see through that, but then through the skin all the way to the bones, which is like gross. And like, why would you want to?
Yeah, and imagine every time you look at somebody, you're bombarding them with massive amounts of radiation.
Oh yeah,
it's not like
your
wife and your kids are probably like dying of cancer by the time they're 10.
This is not only a lame power, but it's a health risk. So it's got to be like, if it's the lamest power, it's got to be closest to the top. It's got to be like 2 or.
So yeah, we'll go number 2 then. Next one up is enhanced smell. Enhanced
like you smell?
No. Like you can smell.
Bloodhound.
Yeah, I work with teenagers. This is a bad idea.
This is a horrible.
The only person that I can recall in comic books that has enhanced smell is Wolverine, and it's because he's a tracker and stuff. I think that's the only time it ever comes.
Rain does.
Tanjiro.
Yeah, Daredevil.
Oh yeah, Tanjiro does.
Daredevil.
Yes, it's true. That's the one thing nobody ever talks about is Daredevil's enhanced smell. It's still weird to say. It's pretty lame though. I don't know. It's not X-ray vision lame. It could potentially be useful, to be blunt. Dogs are able to smell like bombs, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
And
does
so,
Beast have advanced smell?
I'm sure he does. He's half beast.
He's
Come
a beast.
on. Yeah.
I like Caliban's enhanced smell because he can use it to sniff out mutants like they are truffles, and he's a truffle pig.
Yeah.
As weird as this one sounds, I think it's got to be towards the bottom of the list. It's got to be like a 4 or 5 in terms of, because there are real world practical applications for it, and you could actually benefit from it.
I'll go 4.
Yeah.
Right.
4 it is.
All right, so next up is immortality.
Wow. People like to think living forever would be awesome, except half the time, all of the stories, it ends up being a curse. Yes. You outlive everybody that you love. You have to see them all die. You
fight for the prize, and once you get it, then you have to be forced to be in a second movie where the sky is covered with some sort of gel thing.
Yeah, and people chase you around with garlic all the time and like try to stake you in the middle of the night.
Cut your head off.
Yeah.
It is.
Not a pleasant experience.
But it is extremely popular. Let's just say that. It's an extremely popular power to have across lots of different fictional characters. So it can't be like super lame because it's like
I'm saying it's a 5. I want to say a 5 too.
It's a curse, but like lots of people have it.
Kind of cool. I got this curse, but
it's fine. I'm fine. You're fine. Organic wings.
So Angel, the original Angel.
Yes, correct.
Oh, this has got to be number 1. The original Angel is by far one of the lamest superheroes that ever existed. Like, the only thing that ever got cool about him was when they gave him metal wings and a badass personality.
Not only did he have lame wings, then they had an even lamer explanation for how he could hide the wings underneath his...
Oh, yeah!
Because the problem is, like, once the wings are out, you can't retract them. Like, they're just out, baby.
Right. Absolutely.
Like imagine going in an elevator with organic wings. Imagine doing anything.
Look at Hawkman. He can't even wear a normal shirt. He's got those 2 belts across his chest.
Now listen, I will say that the only cool caveat to this is like people that have bat wings. I've always thought Man-Bat was super cool looking. And again, they're more
conspicuous.
I bet angel wings will get you chicks.
Like when you're molting all over them. That's sure. This has got to be still number 1. There's nothing lamer.
I mean, you can fly.
But as Chad said, you have to flap all the time. It's like running everywhere. You're eventually going to get tired.
You can glide. You can like soar. Like
you gotta get pretty high up before you can start gliding. I'd be scared to death. I don't even like heights.
I'm trying to play devil's advocate here.
It's number 1. Give us what ended up being in the middle of the road.
Middle of the road is kinetic touch.
Gambit.
Yes.
That's not lame.
Think about it.
Everybody loves Gambit.
If you're messing around with somebody and then like you put your hand on your boob and it explodes in your hand. That's horrifying.
That's going to take some therapy for everybody.
Yes, correct.
But it's not molting giant bird wings. I'm sorry.
And I think it comes with that accent that Gavin has, and that's cool too. Yes, sirree.
No, it is lame when they institute it within the Black Panther costume armor thing. Can hit him, and then he builds up kinetic energy, and he can go boom and explode people around him.
Is it lamer than wings? No. Is it lamer than X-ray vision? No.
All you need is Red Bull for wings.
I'm going to ask you guys truthfully, is there a practical application for kinetic touch?
Yeah, blow shit up. I'm on this construction site. I'm going to blow shit up.
Exactly. You don't need dynamite. You don't need TNT.
Get Carl. We need someone to blow shit up.
When you're mastering this power, it's got to be like fucking miserable, though. Like you're blowing, like you're cooking an egg and blowing up pans.
Sorry, Claire.
The perfect definition of around and find out.
All right, recap. We got to move on to the comic. What's going on here?
So yeah, the least lame to most lame. Number 5, immortality. Number 4, enhanced smell. Number 3, kinetic touch. Number 2, X-ray vision. And number 1, organic wings, which I definitely agree with. Organic wings are 100%.
Tuck them into your suit. You always got to wear the jacket with the shoulder pads just to give you a little bit extra room. Like it's 1984 all the time.
They had to give Hawkman a huge mace to like balance out how lame the fact that he had wings were. That's why he never caught on.
With Hawkman's outfit, I always thought the wings were like a backpack because of the way the straps were.
Right.
Who cares about Hawkman?
What we do care about is our comic book for this week. It's Valiant Unity, 18 issues. We'll be right back after these commercial breaks with that Read Power review. Stay tuned.
They're not issues, they're chapters.
Hello, Last Comic Shop podcast listeners. It is George from Shortbox Summary. The only thing I like more than reading comics is collecting comics, and the only thing I like more than collecting comics is taking care of the comics I've collected. And there is no better place to get bags and boards for your favorite, heck, even your least favorite comics than BCW Supplies. You can get all the bags, boards, boxes, frames, and more that you need to help keep your comic collection in its best shape. Listeners of this podcast can enjoy 10% off their order with code LCSPOD. That's LCSPOD for 10% off your entire order. Keep it tuned to the Last Comic Shop podcast for the best in comics talk and the best in comic book supply savings courtesy of BCW.
We're all familiar with the Golden Age, Silver Age, Bronze Age, and Modern Age of comics, but we can't still be in the Modern Age after almost 4 decades, can we?
We don't think so. And that's why we started the Iron Age of Comics, a critical re-evaluation of comic books from about 1985 to 2000.
On this podcast, we go beyond the chromium covers and the grim and gritty cliches, and take a deep dive into one of the most vibrant but divisive periods in comics history.
That's the Iron Age of Comics, with new episodes every first and third Wednesdays of the month. And look for us on social media, where the handle is @Iron Age of Comics.
And we are back, and we're here to talk about Unity, the great Valiant crossover from the early 90s that takes place outside of time and space. So this show could go on for a long time because, as we learned in this book, time is not absolute. Except it is. Except it's not. And sometimes you read chapter 2 and it covers stuff that already happened in chapter 1, but Andrew will get into wanting to have this book chopped up and put into Unity Day 1, Unity Day 2, Unity Day 3. We will get to that. But first, who did this, Chad? Who wrote and drew and was a part of this massive 18-issue crossover saga?
So yes, it is 18 parts. And to make my life slightly easier, I'm just going to go book by book. So we're going to start off with Unity issue 0 and 1, which were chapters 1 and 18. They were written by Jim Shooter and Barry Windsor Smith, and Bob Layton was on inks there. Eternal Warrior 1 and 2 was Jim Shooter and John Dixon. Archer and Armstrong 1 and 2 were Jim Shooter and Barry Windsor Smith with Bob Layton on inks. Magnus Robot Fighter issues 15 and 16 were written by Roger Stern with art by Ernie Colon, and Howard Simpson chipped in. Exo Manowar issues 7 and 8, you had a combination of Bob Layton, Michael Leake, and Tom Ryder. Shadow Man issues 4 and 5. It was a combo deal with David Lapham, Jim Shooter, and Faye Pezrozich, with Tom Ryder on inks. And then Rye, issues 6 and 7. You had David Michelini and Joe St. Pierre, along with Sal Voluto. Harbinger, issues 8 and 9. You had Jim Shooter, David Lapham, and Gonzo Mayo. And then Solar Man of the Atom, issues 12 and 13. You had Jim Shooter, Don Perlin, and Stan Drake. On the Unity books, I want to say you had Barry Windsor Smith covers. For chapters 2 through 9, the covers were one giant image composed by Frank Miller. And then for issues 10 through 17, those were one giant image composed by Walt Simonson.
All right. Well, thank you. And what happened in this grand crossover, Andrew? I've been told I'm not allowed to give the 10-cent synopsis because my Solar 10-cent synopsis lasted about half the show.
Because you also sent us a Cliff Notes version of Unity, and it covered like 3 different books smashed into one page. This is not helpful research at all.
And some of it will actually begin by talking a little bit about the previous events that happened in Solar Man of the Atom. You should go back and you should listen to our Polar Man of the Atom 1 through 10 because it does set the table for pretty much everything that happens here, given that Solar and Erica Pierce Mother God are the primary protagonists and antagonists throughout this entire Unity Saga. They are gods, and they are fighting it out over whose reality is it anyways? Solar Man of the Atom. Phil Selensky, a nuclear physicist that existed in this one universe, he got godlike powers after a nuclear explosion and eventually lost control of those powers and ended up destroying his universe. And in the moments right after he destroys his universe, he recreates a new one, the Valiant universe. So the fact that there's an Eternal Warrior and Rye and Magnus the Robot Fire and Harbingers and Spider Aliens and all this, it's all because of Solar Man of the Atom. Unfortunately, he wasn't the only one in this nuclear explosion. There was also Erica Pierce, his co-worker. And Erica Pierce, who's kind of messed up, says, I don't like this universe. And so she spends like 2,000 years planning some way to just basically destroy Solar's universe and start over fresh. And Solar's like, nah, we're not doing that. So I'm going to collect all of these superheroes throughout all the Valiant books. I'm going to come and fight you, Erica. Erica's like, I'm going to run away to some pocket universe with dinosaurs and robots and stuff, and come get me. And so then they just fight over like 157 days. But we only get to see like day 1 and day 2, and then day 157 and 158.
Yeah, but don't forget you have characters from 1992 and 4001.
Exactly.
And
exactly.
We need to do like a chart, basically, like the characters that mattered and the issues that mattered, and then the people that did not matter. And they were just filler people. Like Shadow Man, other than attacking Solar, we can definitively put in the does not matter category.
Come on, he gets a girlfriend who rides a dinosaur.
That's the 10-cent synopsis, though. That's what it boils down to. So if I spent a lot of time on the front end, it's because all the front end is like the setup. And then they go to the Lost Land and they fight.
And the back end is where the dinosaur poop comes up from, and that covers up Archer or Armstrong or whichever. That's how he can get through one of the things. And
Exo Manowar does stuff, but doesn't do stuff. And then
but he gets eaten by a dinosaur.
All right, time out. I will say this to J.A.'s point. My hope and pray and my wish is that someday somebody goes out there and is like bored enough that they take every single individual page from all 18 of these issues and says, which page is this? Where in the story does this page fit?
Chronologically.
Look, I like this. I'm going to start off by saying with my initial thought that I like Unity. I've read it like 3 or 4 times at this point. But it's very confusing at times because they tell different parts of this story in different issues.
I get what you're saying. And to me, the biggest, like, what happened to him because he's dead and then he's not dead is Jeff. killed by Mother God, but you don't see it. Does that happen off panel? And then suddenly at the next issue, he's alive. But because was this before or after he met Mother God and confronted her? So there is a bit of that where you've got to get into what day of Unity are you in. I think it gets better as you go on into the story, but that's what I wanted to ask Chad about, because he really seemed to be struggling early on with this.
Pass.
You're still struggling with it, Chad?
No, I can jump in. I share the exact same thing with Chad. Chad 4001. Chad. It started out really, really slow. 400 characters. I didn't know who the people were. And like Andrew said about the issues being put together in chronological order, we'd have to tell this, like, Magnus rallying the troops story like 6 times, because it's in like 6 different issues of like, we have to stop her. We have to stop her. This is our final stand. We have to stop her. We have to stop her. Okay, I understand. You have to stop her. Can you just do it now? And you don't mess around with this character, this character, this character. I think like it was good, but I think it needed, I hate to say it, I think it needed an editor. I think it didn't have to go 18 issues.
Yeah, here's why I kept passing, because I know J.A. loves this book, and I know Andy is mighty fond of this as well. And here's my take. I think it's confusing. I think the art is mostly meh, and at worst, it's inconsistent. Like Mother God's kid, sometimes he's some chubbo, sometimes he's real slender. There's no rhyme or reason for what he's going to look like, and it can change from page to page. That's Barry Windsor Smith art. Power sets and plot points are Dollar General Jim Starlin, and but at least it's repetitive, where you get the same panel in 6 different comics. So at the end of the day, it was fine. I feel like were I in the midst of it and really making great strides to make sense of this and figure this stuff out and gave any shits at all about any of these characters, this would mean more to me. But I don't, and I feel bad about it, and it's just a whole lot of not for me.
Don't feel bad about it, Chad, because this is just setting up for when we read Deathmate.
I like parts of Deathmate.
I know the image parts. I do. I mean, I can see the arguments. I was rereading it this time, and I tried to read it from a more critical standpoint, and I could see some of these holes and issues, and the whole Mother God thing, like waiting till 4001 till Solar had expended himself, and then going to this pocket dimension where he just shows up. Oh, I didn't think that 1992 Solar would come.
It just happenstance, and that's the same time we've got these other big characters that we want to use.
Yes, Andrew, because that's comic book writing.
That is.
Hey, one other note on comic book writing. You remember my big issue I have with most other Valiant things? Why are all the names terrible? All the names are bad. Eric, like what? Exo Man of War, like come on.
Plus, my biggest bone to pick is like the best issue is when Archer and Armstrong fight Turok, and then they freaking sideline Turok. He's not in the issue anymore. He's like, he's gone. He's like, I don't want to use this bow anymore.
Yeah, your weapon spoke to me and told me you're a good guy. That must mean other people are bad. I'm out.
Yeah,
what?
And then but you don't do anything like Exo Manowar.
No, he did come back in Turok Dinosaur Hunter #1 with a sweet chromium cover.
Ah, there you go.
It is a sweet cover.
And like Shadow Man, I don't even know, the most random thing possible. It's like, let's start in New Orleans, let's get you in a swamp, and then like let's take you on multiple weird boat rides until you're in this alternate dimension, and then you attack and destroy Solar. Why am I reading this issue? Because they ultimately don't matter.
You don't really care about, but somebody does. I loved Shadow Man. And if you were reading Shadow Man outside of the Unity, it makes sense that he's not a part of the heroes, because he was always slightly apart. And then they get into another crossover later on where he's much more involved because it's dark power and all this stuff. But I think especially Exo Man of War and Shadow Man, those are 2 very individualistic characters within the Valiant universe. So it makes sense that they're not with the whole group of heroes fighting the war, if you will. But at the same time, it does I'll agree with you. It does lend a bit of disconnect because I think we get struggle into this is the next chapter. This is going to move the story forward, except we ended chapter 9 on Unity Day 156, and then we start chapter 10 on Unity Day 0. Why am I going back again? And I think goes back to Andrew's point of you need somebody to cut the whole thing up and put it in complete chronological order.
But at the same point, like, you created characters that are really cool. Magnus and Rye and Exo Manowar, but he doesn't do anything. Honestly, my biggest problem with Exo Manowar is they built him up to be like the god killer. And I read the Solar where he had this tremendous fight with Exo Manowar. It was like Exo Manowar went mano a mano with Solar, a freaking god. And it's like, okay, now you've built this up because I read the Solar issues where Exo Manowar is like this OG, like badass dude. Like, I want to see him go one-on-one with Mother God. Let's see them throw down. And they never get to that point. That's what I was saying about like Exo Manowar being useless in this whole thing. He was really cool and he was underutilized is basically what I'm saying. And I think there's a lot of people in this series that were underutilized. Like, you could have showed me a lot more Shadow Man. If Shadow Man is cool enough to take down freaking Soul, again, I go back to this.
I mean, he didn't take down Solo. He just kind of injected himself and
yeah, but he like hugged him, bear hugged him, and then he got burned real bad.
Exactly, that's all he did. He picked up the pot and burned his hand, and then.
I'm going to come to the defense of this with the things that I like. The plot points that I love do all happen towards the tail end of this book, and I really do feel like the last like 3 or 4 chapters of this, they kind of nail the landing. Arguably, my favorite issue is probably the second to last one, the Solar Man of the Atom issue, where he's just like, hey, Erica, you want to see me be a dick? I'll be a dick. Fine. I'm the god of this universe. I created it. You're not going to destroy it. Sorry. That's not happening on my watch. But in addition to that, the other cool story that happens is the whole Harbinger thing with Chris giving birth to Magnus. To me, that's classic time travel and X-Men jazz. That's stuff that they did at Marvel. You could tell that like Jim Shooter and Bob Layton and like they all came from that Marvel stock where they were like, yeah, introduce a baby and then make him be Cable.
Yeah, send him into the future. Does he have the techno-organic virus? And that's why they just drop a baby from the sky for Solar 4000.
But I love Solar 4000. Like, thankfully, somebody reminded me, or I would have forgotten to pick him up.
But my one genuine question, and this because you can go back to the last Comic Shop archives and you can listen to this episode. Jim Shooter was involved with 2 massive crossovers that happened in pocket dimensions. You got Valiant Unity on one side, and you've got Secret Wars on the other side. The big difference between 2 of those is that Secret Wars was all self-contained. It was its own series, and every issue went after each other, and you followed along in that story. This one, you got 2 of those books for the bookends, but then the rest were like the normal books focusing on the characters that you had kind of been reading. Think of it as like Secret Wars, except Chapter 2 would have been the Amazing Spider-Man issue, or the Thor issue that month, or the Fantastic Four issue that month, and kind of focused on those characters. Which do you prefer? And we'll start off with Chad.
Yeah, no, it's obviously the first one. Give me a self-contained story with characters that I care about, that I can follow. With this, the styles, even when there were things that I liked, we get to those Ernie Colon issues of Magnus, and like, oh, the art style's kind of cool here. It's a little bit different. I like this. But going from 8 different creative teams, even though I know you had Jim Shooter as the architect guiding a lot of hands, and I know Barry Windsor Smith and Bob Layton all had a lot, you're jumping around so much, and it seems so disparate. The connections were literally the same panels repeated across books, where it's like, oh, good, at least it's something I've seen already. Great. I didn't have anything for most of those characters to care about, other than, well, Solar's kind of neat because we read those 10 Solar books, and Harbingers, all their names are dumb. but I like the characters. Sting and what's the?
It's not Sledgehammer.
Truckloader. What's that guy? Yeah, Torque.
Torque is the one that died. Yeah.
Craven's Last Hunt. They brought in the same creative team, and they did that team in Amazing. That was the creative team in Web of Spider-Man. That was the team in Spectacular Spider-Man. That's the way I like my stories. I don't want the Superman triangle era where it's like, oh, this creative team is going to do part 1 and this creative team does part 2. There's too many inconsistencies across the board for that to be satisfying for me to sit down. If I was reading it month to month and like reading other books in between, maybe, but like to read these issues back to back to back, like it just wasn't a great experience for me.
Well, let's get the counterpoint from J.A. because I'm sure he's going to have a counterpoint to that.
I don't know so much of a counterpoint as it sort of, I mean, you look at when Secret Wars was made, Marvel had been around for 20 years at that point. It was an established property. These were all established characters, and so you put them into a mini-series. I mean, you can call it a crossover because you're crossing over characters, but it's its own sort of thing, and that's very easy, I think, and very approachable, and it holds up probably much better over time because it's existing outside of the realm of what everything else is going on within the Marvel universe, so you don't need to know a lot of backstory for all of these characters. With the Valiant thing, you're introducing some of these characters, but this is also at the beginning of the Valiant timeline, the beginning of a lot of these books. I mean, you said it was...
Yeah.
So from a publishing standpoint, they're probably looking at this as this is a way to get people more interested in other books within our universe. So maybe you're just picking up Solar, or maybe you're just picking up Magnus, the robot fighter. So, now you have to read a chapter of Rye, and that's kind of interesting. I'll keep reading Rye. Except, no, you won't, because he got killed.
Yeah, and that first Eternal Warrior issue is so boring. So boring.
I'm not trying to make excuses for it, but I do understand from a publishing standpoint, this is a burgeoning comic book company trying to get eyeballs on their issues and introduce new characters because they're small and they're trying to grow big. Unlike something like Marvel, who has all these properties, has had them for years, and is just trying to refresh and getting new life into some characters that, to be honest, we didn't give a shit about before or after, but they were kind of cool in Secret Wars.
Yeah. Also, please talk about the elephant in the room of the weird relationship with Erica Pierce and her son. This is...
I'm not your mommy. I'm from another time. Yeah. It was super creepy. We got to get to commercial break. We can talk about this. We'll save some of this for our rating section right after this commercial break. Stay tuned for more talk about Valiant Unity as well as recommendations.
Hey guys, it's John from New Dimension Comics. Did you know that every Thursday at 8 o'clock on YouTube, you can watch me and Justin talk about all kinds of cool comics, reviews, nerd news, and just random stuff as well? Make sure you check it out at YouTube. Just search New Dimension Comics Presents The Toddcast. Then, while you're at it, go to ndcomics.com, check out all of our stores. And we also run a con in Pittsburgh, Three Rivers Comic Con. You can check that out at threeriverscomiccon.com.
In a world where there's often 60 plus years of history to worry about, how can you quickly get into a new comic character or franchise? If you're like me, then you turn to video games. But how well does that work out? In some cases, pretty well. In others, it's a giant disaster. But how can you know which games will set you on the right path, and which games will just leave you more confused than you were before? Play Comics is the show for you. I'm Chris, and each episode we take a look at video games based on comic properties and how well they stick to that source material. So listen in and get the scoop on which games are worth your time over at playcomics.com or wherever you find your favorite podcasts.
All right, we're back with more of The Last Comic Shop, and it is now time for ratings, where we're running out of time on this episode. But time is not absolute. It keeps on ticking. Although in the Lost Land, they said that time was absolute there.
Yeah, but then that gets reversed, and then there's no Lost Land. It's like Neverland.
It's Neverland. We'll get to that and why this isn't 4 out of 4 or something or others. 4 out of 4 what, JAs? What are we doing this week?
All right, so the rating scale this week is going to refer to a plot point which we didn't really discuss but it's 1 out of 4 stuffed tigers.
Ew, it's just icky. That whole storyline with Albert and Erica was just the grossest.
It is an incestuous relationship because it's his mom, and he ends up hating her, and he takes his hatred out of her on these prostitutes that he goes to this bar for and beats them up and kills a couple of them. But no one can touch him because he's the son of Mother God. That was an interesting aspect, not the son thing, but the whole idea that there's this whole underground economy existing within Mother God's great utopia, which I think that was sort of a nod to the fact that anytime you try to build a utopia, it ultimately fails because not everyone has this exact same idea for you about, what is good or what is bad.
Right. And I think that dovetails with my rating this week. And again, I'm only going to give this a 3. As much as I love Unity, and I've loved Unity as much as JA has over the years. It was arguably the first time I really got into the Valiant universe was Unity. JA even had all the Unity trading cards, and I can remember just flipping through all the Unity trading cards. They had like little scenes. Actually, it's the thing that was in chronological order were those trading cards in terms of the story. You probably should have just read those. But I can't give this story more than a 3 because it's like kind of my problem with so much with Valiant, which is they always seem to be rushing forward. Even when they hit cool things, they only stick with those cool things for like 2 hot seconds and then it's gone. Think of this. These particular issues only came out within like 2 months of a summertime in 1992? And not only was it over, but all of the kind of neat ideas that Jim Shooter spent a lot of time kind of building up were also gone because they decided to destroy it all and say that it never existed, like the Lost Land and whatever. To be honest, they had a really good bad guy in Erica Pierce. They had a really cool place in the Lost Land. And I would have loved to have seen like Erica Pierce say, well, I don't like Solar's universe, so I'm going to create my own universe. It's called the Lost Land, and I'm going to rule over it as my own queen. And sometimes the Valiant universe and her universe fight. That would have been much more interesting. Plus would have like developed like a lot more ideas, I feel like. And this is kind of like a flash in the pan and it's over, and then you're just like, all right, well, we got to move on. And they didn't even bring back Erica Pierce as a main baddie. Like they set up their Doctor Doom, and then they're just like, man, we're not even going to use her anymore. And that stinks. Spend some time. Stay with a place, or at least keep that place around so that you can come back to it and do other stories later on. But instead, they were just moving forward with the next idea and the next idea after that and the next idea after that. And so this will never be a 4 because I just feel like some of the ideas were squandered. They were wasted. Just let it play out a lot longer than it did. Chad.
Yeah, this is okay. I'm going to give it a 2.25. I struggled with the plot a little bit. I struggled with, like, there were a lot of ideas that were solid ideas, but I didn't have enough grounding to care as much as I could have. And so a lot of it just seemed forced. And I agree with Andy's point where it does seem like they're just trying to rush it. They're trying to make fetch happen. And the Valiant universe isn't there yet. And from the sounds of it, they left a lot of things dangling. So a lot of it never actually, got there either. But there's glimmers. There's lots of things that, could be really cool here. So I don't want you to think it's terrible, or I think that it's terrible. But at the same time, at the end of the day, it's a whole lot of not for me. So, yeah, 2.25.
Ethan.
I think it did what it set out to do. If its purpose, which Jay has stated, is to set up a bunch of other characters in the Valiant universe, then bravo. Job well done. Because you introduced a lot of people very quickly, and some of which I struggled, unfortunately, to know whether or not I should really care about them at the end of the day. They did some stuff, and then they went away. And then they did some stuff, and then they went away. I don't know if that's a reasonable critique on this book. I'm struggling to think of what a reasonable critique on this book actually is, because at the end of the day, it sticks the landing. It gets good. It starts developing. And I really appreciate those stories where, like, when the heroes are like, their backs are against the wall and they really need to come up with like a Hail Mary, and they finally want to release the ultimate being to just whoop a lot of ass. Like, they're waiting for Goku to show up, basically. And what I'm saying is, like, this is the perfect shonen anime or a shonen manga. And how could I fault a shonen manga for being a shonen manga? Some of the stuff doesn't make sense. Some of the characters you don't care about. But at the end of the day, if you stick the landing, if you stick the main story, if you get the big bad fighting the big good, Solar versus Mother God, it's a good win in my book. So I'm going to go 2.75, a little bit under Andy's 3. I think it started picking up toward when Turok fought Archer and Armstrong. And Archer and Armstrong are great characters. And Magnus is a great character. And Exo Manowar is a great character, but he doesn't fight Mother God, which is what I wanted. But beggars can't be choosers.
All right, J.A., it was your pick.
Yeah, I'm glad everyone had to read it. I see the points. I read it this time, and I was reading it from a much more critical position, almost saying, Chad is not going to be happy with me on this. I still love it. I can see the issues it has, even some of the things you brought up, Andrew. I don't think they didn't go back to Mother God because they didn't want to. I think they didn't go back to Mother God because not long after this, Jim Shooter got fired from Valiant. So the new editors sort of wanted to go in new directions, and they wanted to create their own big bads. That's why we got Master Dark, and we got some of these other villains. And that, I think, was one of the things that caused Valiant so much issues and why they lost some of the licensing, and they had to go through restructuring. They kind of lost their way a bit after Jim Shooter left the company. At the end of Unity, Erica Pierce was still there. I mean, she hadn't been killed. She was stuck in the little wormhole thing that he had been stuck in, and he got out of that. So she could have got out of that. I think they just never went back to that story, which is unfortunate. As you said, she's a great villain. The whole idea that Solar created the Valiant universe, and then she wanted to create her own universe because she didn't like the Valiant universe. She didn't like all these superheroes. So her whole idea was, I want it ordered. And they play up on the fact that she wanted to essentially undo her childhood and undo everything that happened to her with her father. That's why that issue is so great. I agree with you. The best issue is the chapter 17. Solar mentions to her, he's like, you can't unchange the past. You can't go back and remake time. She's like, well, you tried to. He's like, yes, but I learned. You know, I had to kill a world to learn that. Billions had to die. I have to walk around with that on me. And you haven't learned that yet. That being said, this time reading it through, it did feel a little bit long to get into. I hit that Eternal Warrior issue. I'm like, why are we in the Lost Land? I don't want to be in Babylon now learning about Eternal Warrior. I know about Eternal Warrior. So hindsight being 2020 doesn't hold up as well as it did in the moment when I was reading it. So I'm just going to give it a 3.25. The 0.25 sort of adding just because of the fundamental place it had in my comic book collecting history. So you can find most of the books, as I said, on Comixology Unlimited. The bookends and the Solar and Magnus books, which unfortunately are some of the better ones, you're going to have to go to the high seas to find those.
Those buck bins are awash with issues of Unity. You can put together your own collection, and hey, maybe somebody out there will find all 18 and then rip out every single page and then put them.
That sounds like a perfect job for Mikey Wood. Mr. Mikey Wood would love that sort of esoteric deconstruction.
Well, we're hoping that Mr. Mikey Wood also enjoys our recommendations, where we talk about other comic books in addition to the Valiant Unity Saga, which you can, as I said, find some of the issues on Comixology, or you can find them in buck bins. It is not out in omnibus. It is not out in collections. I do recall that they put some of these issues out in a trade way back when Valiant was actually still around and they still had the rights.
They did. It was, I want to say it's 3 trade paperbacks, but you got to find, I mean, they're not easy to find on eBay.
Yeah. I think actually it'll be easier for you just to find the single issues. But as you're looking for those issues, find these other things at your local comic book shop. And we're going to start off with Ethan this week. What do you got for us?
All right. So I mentioned it many times in my review of Unity that this reminded me of a shonen manga. And I'm hoping that we can read it on the show sometime, but maybe not. I don't know. The biggest problem with this book, like Unity, really long, and it's hard to recommend in story arcs because it's basically one big story arc. I'm talking about Full Metal Alchemist, written and drawn by Hiromu Arakawa from 2001 to 2010. This was a series that was about two brothers that effed around and found out. They live in this world where alchemy is real and killed their mother and also killed their brother and put him in a suit of armor. Or trying to bring back their mother. I can't really remember. And they find out this big conspiracy about these other alchemists that are trying to transmutate everybody on Earth. So it's very much like this big heroic story of good versus evil, and it's a lot of fun, and I enjoyed it a lot wholeheartedly. So Full Metal Alchemist is my recommendation for this week.
Okay, so one of my issues this week with having to read Unity and it being an 18-issue epic is my buddy Zach Thompson from Thompson's Comics Corner is the name of his podcast. He asked me if I would do an episode with him, and I just have to read one issue of Fantastic Four. Is Fantastic Four issue 39. I was like, all right, I know I have this other big reading assignment for the regular podcast this week, but I can read one issue. And so I pulled out my Fantastic Four Volume 2 Omnibus from Stan and Jack and picked up issue 39. And the first thing I find is the Fantastic Four being fished out of the ocean based on the last issue's happenings. So I'm like, oh, crap, I'm going to have to read issue 38. So now I read issue 38 and 39 to find out what happened. And then as I'm getting into 39, who shows up in the issue? But Daredevil shows up. And they have a little like, oh, Daredevil's been their lawyer since Daredevil issue 2. And then it's Daredevil in the red costume. And I was like, it looks a little different. It turns out this issue 39, was the next month after Wally Wood came on to Daredevil and said, no, I'm going to make his costume all red. And didn't tell anybody until the pages were done. And so Stan Lee's like, well, you got to go fix this Fantastic Four issue, he said, next month. So Wally Wood inked over Jack Kirby to fix all the Daredevil parts of this issue. And so, like, I'm doing research, like, this is right after the big Submariner Daredevil issue. That one's just a classic. But I'm reading there, then we get in this issue, and like, oh, there's notes back to the origin of Doctor Doom from Fantastic Four Annual number 2. I'm like, well, I got to read that. I mean, and then I get to the end of issue 39, and lo and behold, the issue isn't the end of the story. It's a two-parter. So now I have to read Fantastic Four number 40, which includes a reference at the end. They fix it with something that happened in Fantastic Four 37. And so instead of reading one issue, I ended up reading 10 different issues of this classic Stan and Jack Fantastic Four and the Wally Wood Daredevil stuff. Daredevil takes his billy club, pops out a gun sight and turns it into a long-range sniper rifle at some point. Dr. Doom is just being a dick and making fun of Reed. And there's all this stuff going on. But it was the exact opposite for me of the whole Valiant thing that was trying too hard. Because here I had one issue that I was supposed to read that led into 10 issues. And I wanted to read those issues. I got excited organically about those issues and wanted to go back and fill that stuff in. As opposed to someone saying, well, you have to read all this stuff and that'll get you excited about these things later on. So I guess my recommendation is Fantastic Four issue 39. But just be ready. You're going to have to do a lot of other homework too, because it's lots of fun. And then I read Unity.
Oh, come on. Although my recommendation this week, Chad, is very similar in terms of a story that kind of reminded me a lot of Unity when I was reading it. And it all starts off with a character that also is nuclearly powered. That's right. It's not Solar Man of the Atom, it's Geiger, done by Jeff Johns and Gary Frank. It originally started off as a miniseries. Then there was a second miniseries called Geiger Ground Zero, and now he's had an ongoing series called Geiger, which is on shelves now. But it tells the story of Tariq Geiger, who was a fella that had cancer before the bombs fell. And after the bombs fell, he got super nuclear powers, where he could turn into this glowing man, like this super strong, can burn anything. Like, he fights with these two barium rod things that come out of his back that help him not explode. And he's fighting across a nuclear wasteland with a two-headed dog and a dude with like power armor. He's an atomic knight that came out of Las Vegas. Lots of shades of one of my favorite video game series of all time, Fallout. I know a lot of folks have been watching the Fallout series, season 2, that's out on Amazon Prime right now. But if you like that, and then you like comics, you should check out the Geiger. Because not only do you get Geiger, but it's kind of setting up like what we call a Geiger verse, which has characters like the Redcoat, who's an immortal, similar to Eternal Warrior. You've got Rook, Exodus, which kind of happens in outer space, kind of like Rye or Magnus Robot Fighter. You got Junkyard Joe, who's like a robot dude, kind of like Exo Man-O-War. I don't know. It's like the Valiant universe all over again, except with these new characters. And it's gotten even better now in the Geiger book because they've introduced Ashley Arden, who's a lady Geiger. She has the same powers, except she's sexy lady. And they're like, will they get together? It's got a Sam and Diane kind of thing. Do they hate each other? Do they like each other? It's like kind of Solar and Mother God, except right now, at least they're on the same page. But it's awesome. It's like the Valiant universe all over again over there in the Geigerverse. So check it out. Jeff Johns writes all of it. And at least for the Geiger book, it's got awesome Gary Frank art. J.A.
Okay, so I'm going to recommend another Valiant book, another crossover, though when I explained it, Chad was like, why didn't we read that? It's just one issue. Recommending Harbinger number 13. This is a issue that really just focuses on Faith. Got a great tribute cover to The Dark Knight Returns with Faith in silhouette flying down and the lightning bolt crashing. And this is a crossover, interestingly enough, with ElfQuest, because in the issue, Faith has gotten a job working at a comic book store, and her favorite comic book, ElfQuest, the new issue shows up. So what happens in the story sort of parallels what's going on in ElfQuest that month, and it was actually a collaboration. So the issue of ElfQuest that was out when the issue of Harbinger was out, those panels from that book are in the Harbinger book. So you'll go from a couple of pages of Harbinger, and then she talks about, oh, this is my favorite ElfQuest, and the new ElfQuest is here, it's my favorite book. And then you turn the page, and you get 2 pages of the ElfQuest story. And then it goes back to Harbinger, and it's talking, and Faith talks about what happened in the ElfQuest book, and trying to find her place within the team, essentially. And it has nice parallels between the 2 books, and also is sort of a love letter, not just to ElfQuest, but to comic book collecting and the idea that people who read comic books are normal people and they're not dorks and geeks. And a really nice single issue, which you can find on Comixology, The Flying Fury Fights Alone. That's what it's called. And it's got a great cover homage to The Dark Knight Returns.
I love those crossovers they don't make a big deal out of them, but you stumble upon them, you're like, oh wait, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Well, one thing that is also awesome is more episodes of The Last Comic Shop, and it is now officially season 6. That's right. 2 episodes in the books for our 6th season of The Last Comic Shop. And if you are so inclined to listen to all of the rest of season 6, make sure that you're getting out to www.lastcomicshoppodcast.com, rate, reviewing, and subscribing on any of the myriad of podcasting platforms and YouTube that we have links out on that website for. So yes, you go out there, you click one of those links, you say, I love Apple Podcasts, I love Spotify, I love YouTube, I love all these places. I'm going to rate, review, and subscribe to The Last Comic Shop to make sure that they know that I love them. Stick around for those. Listen to our back catalog, evergreen, 5 whole years worth of books, including a wide variety of Valiant titles.
There you go. In addition to just subscribing to your local podcasting platforms, check us out on the socials. We're at Last Comic Shop Podcast. We're on the Blue Sky. We're on Threads. We're all over the place. Let your voice be heard and have all other kinds of fun experiences as well. And while we might be the Last Comic Shop Podcast, we don't want to be the last comic shop. So we're going to encourage everybody to get out there and find a shop near you where you're going to fish around and find those Unity issues back in the back issue bins. And then maybe you want to go over to the manga section and see if you can find things like Full Metal Alchemist. Or you want to go back into the classics and pull out that Fantastic Four Omnibus Volume 2, which I didn't even talk about the other stuff that's in that. That has the Galactus Saga. That has the Inhumans. That has Stan and Jack, one bonkers idea after another, and it's wonderful. But that's on the shelves there, particular issue 39's in there. Or maybe you want to go to the new stuff, and you're going to look for Geiger from Jeff Johns and Gary Frank. Gary Frank is killing it on art, and that whole Geiger verse, it's a thing, man. It is definitely a thing. Or go back to that Valiant section one more time. See if you can find that issue of Harbinger 13 with Faith on the cover, that unofficial ElfQuest crossover, and now you got to go find the ElfQuest things, and all of a sudden you're making your way all around that comic shop. Support your local shops today. And then circle back to the website, www.lastcomicshoppodcast.com, where they can find what else, J.A.?
Well, they can find a link to our merch store, so when you're doing all that shopping, you can use a Last Comic Shop tote bag to carry all your purchased loot in. Also, t-shirts, coffee mugs, baseball caps, and other assorted accessories, all with the Last Comic Shop logo on it. Maybe this week we'll have a special on a black shirt that just says, "The Last Comic Shop is... ...
There you go. And also, you want to atomic bomb that 5-star review, baby. Let's go. Tell us that we're doing a great job. And if you need bags, boards, boxes, comic book supplies, trading card supplies, collecting supplies, go to bcwsupplies.com. Use our promo code LCSPUD at checkout. Save yourself 10% on things that you're going to be buying anyways to fill up your collection. You got those bulk orders. You're a comic book shop. You're a trading card shop. Our promo code works there too. LCSPUD at checkout. We'll save you 10%. BCW Supplies, already very low prices for all of their comic books, trading cards, and collectible needs.
Take care of all your gimmick covers.
Yes, protect those. LCSUD at checkout at bcwsupplies.com.
You never know when you can melt down those chromium covers and turn it into rare earths, baby. I'm telling you.
Well, one thing that's always powered by fun and comics is the Last Comic Shop Podcast, and we hope that you come back next week. We've got Kingdom Come, the legendary DC book done by Alex Ross and Mark Waid. Oh, my goodness. One of the absolute classics. I'm sure you've read it. Come back for our review. Until then, I'm the host of the most, Andy Larson. I'm joined by Chad Smith and Jay Scott, as well as the bombastic Ethan Larson. And we hope that you stay safe, stay warm. That's right. We are in the deads of winter here. And remember, if you have a bicycle that keeps falling over, don't worry. It could just be too tired. See, we're bringing them back. We're bringing them back, baby.
Do we have to?
Too tired.
Comic Shop Podcast was a 2026 Black Angus production.